Hello, and welcome back to Post Traumatic Revelations. I am your host, Ofra Caraballo, and in today's episode, we are looking at this idea of post traumatic stress do over and over and over. I started noticing stories of repeated behaviors I would hear from my clients, my friends, family. I even noticed that I was telling these same stories as well. We find ourselves telling the same story over and over and over, or dating the same type of person over and over and over. Maybe possibly having that same mean boss, tyrant of a boss. That from job to job, somehow we keep finding this person over and over and over. And I became so interested in this topic, I almost named my first book, Post Traumatic Stress Do Over and Over and Over, but I didn't. Um, but I want to shine this light on this idea. I want to kind of create a pause around this habitual cycle of post traumatic stress do over and over and over, or what I like to call PTSD. Oh, no, not again. So I started noticing these patterns or cycles back in about 2010. I had worked as a child and family therapist for a community mental health facility here in Colorado Springs. And for a few years, I'm noticing that parents are telling these stories, and then spouses are telling these stories, and little kiddos are telling their stories. And then I started working at Fort Carson, a local military installation. And my job there was to educate and advocate around issues of domestic violence and child abuse. And it was during this time that all of the lessons that I'd learned from Bruce Perry and Bessel van der Kolk, they all kind of fell into place and started making sense. I mean, I knew theoretically how and why we behave in certain ways post traumatically, but actually witnessing it in myself and in others was amazing and inspiring. And so I'm thinking to myself, wow, this actually there's actually a connection. I mean, there's the cognitive knowing, right? The book knowing what you think and what you think and what you can read and statistics, figures and facts. But then there's that experiential learning when you're actually witnessing the behaviors in others or witnessing the behaviors in yourself and you noticing these emotions associated with certain behaviors. And so in 2010, I'm teaching and advocating and treating people who have various presenting problems. And what I was starting to see on a regular basis is that they all had trauma histories. So, thanks to Bruce Perry and Bessel van der Kolk and their research into trauma and the effects of trauma on early brain development, as well as ways to treat it, I was aware of what I was witnessing and what I was experiencing. And by the way, I highly recommend you look into their work. You can find Bruce Perry's work at childtrauma.org, and you can find Bessel van der Kolk's work at traumaresearchfoundation.org. So I invite you to learn more about their work. They are amazing. and just extensive research on what trauma is and how it affects our minds and our bodies and our relationships. So, back to my topic at hand, PTSD. Oh no, not again. How and why do we get stuck in these repetitive cycles of behavior? Normally, I don't like to use the why word. I don't like why questioning. I think it's judgmental. So I usually avoid it by asking who, what, when, where, how questioning with the goal of getting to the why or the intention behind the behaviors. So back to PTSD. Oh no, not again. How do we get there? Well, there's a saying about those who don't know their history are doomed to repeat it. I've also heard what you don't complete, you will repeat. And I've said this to my clients many times. If you don't pass the class, you will have to take it again to graduate. Have you ever heard of summer school? Do you know anyone who's ever had to take classes during summer school? The thing about trauma is it's unprocessed information. It's unhealed wounds, right? Remember, trauma means wound. And if that wound isn't healed, it's festering. It's unvalidated loss, unaddressed loss. And this unfinished information, this unfinished business of pain and loss is like missing a class from high school. And if you don't pass the class, you don't get to graduate. If you don't heal the trauma, you keep attracting the same kind of pain and loss. You keep attracting the same kind of partner, male or female, transgendered, queer, black, white, African, Asian. It doesn't matter the body. We keep attracting the same kind of person that's going to activate that unresolved trauma. So the same type of partners, same kind of friends, same kind of bosses until we take back what was stolen from us. We take back what was lost doing that traumatic event, doing that traumatic encounter. We take back our voice. We take back control over our minds and our bodies. Until you heal the wound, you will keep bleeding. You will continue to bleed in a way that attracts the type of wolf that preys on your kind of wound. And this is not necessarily a conscious process. We're not choosing consciously to hurt over and over again, but the universe has an order, right? Every living thing tries to repair what's damaged, tries to heal. Our natural tendency is toward healing. So, health and healing is our natural state. So, the mind, the body, the spirit will do whatever it needs to do to heal. And as we heal, we learn how to control our thoughts, how to control our impulses, how to control our emotions. We learn how to control ourselves and we start setting healthier boundaries. We start asking for what we need. We start respecting other people's boundaries, right? That the victim doesn't become the abuser, but we listen to our own minds, our own bodies, and ask for what we need. And we actually listen when others are asking for the time and space and attention that they need. And in this exchange, we start learning how to say yes to ourselves more often than we're saying yes to others or no to ourselves. But we start respecting ourselves and others. What I've learned over the years is that most traumatized people struggle to say no to others. And often it's because that right was taken away. During that traumatic event, we lost our voice. We were muted. Our no's were ignored. Or maybe we were so petrified that we couldn't utter a word. And so, post traumatically, we have a hard time saying no to others, asking for what we need, expecting to be heard and respected and validated. But sometimes saying no in itself is triggering. You can feel in danger just thinking about telling someone no. And so inadvertently, we become people pleasers and often at the expense of our own health and our own safety and our own happiness. But as we practice, as we give ourselves permission, yeah, there goes that permission again, right? But as we give ourselves permission to feel what we feel and validate those feelings, to ask for what we need and expect those needs to be met, as we set and keep our boundaries, we start healing. As we start healing, we start attracting better partners, healthier, kinder, safer relationships, safer friends. Healing boundaries can lead to safer and nurturing relationships, the very thing that was stolen and violated by the trauma. So if you find yourself saying things like, why do I keep dating jerks who cheat on me or lie to me or abuse me? Why does he keep dating women who take advantage of him and treat him like crap? Or why do I always end up with these jerk bosses? There's a good chance you're witnessing or experiencing some kind of unresolved trauma. Now, I'm not here to suggest you diagnose yourself or your friends. I am inviting you to educate yourself, get informed, notice, start paying attention to the patterns of relationships in your life. Do you have relationships that feed you, or do you have relationships that drain you? When you see the name of a person pop up on your phone, does your body lean into the phone, or does your body kind of withdraw from the phone? That's just a subtle indication that that person is probably draining you. They're probably part of your post traumatic stress do over and over and over. And those are little invitations, little calls to action of maybe I should set some boundaries around this relationship. Maybe I don't have to say yes every time this person calls. Maybe I don't have to say yes every time this person asks me to do something. Maybe I don't have to answer the phone at 11 o'clock at night, or maybe I don't have to answer my boss on a Saturday or a Friday or my day off. That you respect your boundaries first, and that will radiate out to other relationships. And as you give yourself permission, the healing starts. As you give yourself permission, relationships shift and healing starts. And you're kinder to yourself. And so people start to be kinder to you. And you start feeling safe inside of your own skin, trusting yourself to hold that boundary, trusting yourself not to betray you. And that starts to extend to other relationships. So to get unstuck and in this cycle of post traumatic stress do over and over and over, I want to invite you to step back and notice those impulses to respond to people who are less than kind to you, to respond to people who don't respect your boundary, who don't encourage your yeses and your nos. I want to invite you to end the cycle, one choice at a time. And as always, I thank you so much for your time, your attention, and your permission. And until next time, be well.